Hey everybody, how's it going? Good to see chat. We're here to play Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings 5e by Free League. We're in session, I think, 6, believe it or not. Last week, it's so rare that we get to say that, but last week, uh, these fellows went into Abrakan and had their first run-in with the Golden King of Harad there. And um, it didn't go super well, but also you weren't put to the stake. So I think you can call this like a net win of a round one. Um,
Oh,
but
hold on, wait. Could we have like an editorial moment?
yeah,
Because quite honestly, we did some good rolls. I mean, I think that we did a 23 to open the parlay with the king, and there was another 23.
yeah,
There may have been a suboptimal performance roll by a character not meant to be doing performance rolls, but
we listen. That's the role of the party is, you know, sometimes sometimes you're Gandalf and sometimes you're Peregrine Took, and sometimes Peregrine at the wrong time can get you a cave troll, um,
mhm.
and later a Balrog and some orcs in between. So today we're gonna do a kind of a I don't know. It might be a shorter session. We'll find out. But we're gonna do a session where we um, reconnect with the Golden King. We go for round two, and we see how that goes. However, come hell or high water, come good or ill, we are going to wrap up once we have dealt with the Golden King one way or another, and we will save the choice of the next path for when our fourth companion can join us back in January. So this will be the last Middle Earth stream for the rest of the year. Fellas, is there anything else that we should notate before we dive in here?
um, do you want to just quick recap, um, or just dive into it?
I think, why dwell on the past? Why dwell on,
Okay.
yeah,
He's
Okay,
listening to now.
then you asked me to remind you at the beginning. I asked about given my Samarian's Skywatcher trait. Is there some augury of dreams or some
yes,
viewing of the night sky
yes,
over Abrakan that she uh, experienced?
yeah, absolutely. So let's start there. Let's start. You have been pulled, escorted away from the throne room of the king and moved off to down some corridors and through a couple of other buildings, some side streets, and you're finally deposited into this guest quarters. It's quite obvious that you have not been deposited into like the guest quarters of royal nobility or something like that. You have been deposited into not a jail cell and certainly not something, falling into ruin or desolate or gross, but sparse is a fine word for where you are asked to reside. Um, and um, it is while you are here, um, and you've all kind of settled in, and my suspicion is that you all would have, communicated some sort of a watch, or at least people committing to staying awake for different times of the night, just in case. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's not you're not you haven't been promised safety or security here, and even if you had, I don't know that you would trust it. So, it is while Silmarian sleeps that she uh, has this dream vision, and initially she finds herself standing in the midst of desert dunes. Um, and she moves up to the top of this dune and she looks out and she sees a sea of torchlight or campfire light glistening down around the dunes and the different valleys and things that are created here. Um, and amongst the rises and the falls. And you're just starting to move down this hill and see what these fires contain and what might be going on. And then you start to see, you start to hear this like, sounds like water or something like that, this current. And then your eyes start to catch in the glistening of starlight. Your eyes start to catch all this sand kind of falling down the dunes, and your whole vision swims as the world around you kind of shifts left and then right. Um, the falling sand is catching off of the torch lights or the campfire lights, and then you kind of, maybe put a hand down into the dune beside you to stabilize yourself. And as you look back up, you see that these dunes are actually like an enormous viper that is moving just underneath the sand. And as it moves, that sand falls off it, and you can see that it's not torches or campfire light, but it is the gleam of brilliant scales, golden red, orange scales that are glistening underneath the sand there. And you watch as like the entire sea of sand before you erupts and like like blooms to reveal this giant viper that traverses the desert. And all you can do at this point is you kind of duck down, crouch down, and watch as this viper moves. Um, give me a give me a check here, Crithael. I want to see what you can notice.
Crithiel or
I'm so,
Samarian?
I'm
I
sorry,
think so, Marion.
Sumerian. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, Crithael is probably on watch at the moment, if I had to guess. Um, let's see. I would like you to give me a travel check.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. Is 16.
16. Very good. So, as you watch this serpent slither off, twisting through the sand, um, you look up into the stars and you kind of look out in front of you and you start to pick up constellations, and you recognize that while you recognize that this is a dream, the stars are the same as those that you're used to seeing in the night sky. And you use them to kind of like correlate your positioning, and you see that this serpent is moving at faster than a horse's gallop, it seems to you, to the north and back towards Gondor. And you know that ere long, in moments, it will be um, away from you, moving beyond, and you will be without hope to catch it or to make it to Gondor before it arrives. In this moment, you know of dream desperation, what would you do?
I'm in sand in a desert. A viper, a multiple dune size viper,
Yeah.
bigger than a like dragon like, if not bigger,
Yes.
uh, is on the move, and I need to communicate with Gondor. I either need to do one of two things. I either need to communicate the impending danger, or I need to charm the snake.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting you said it was a viper, because that's the type of snake that snake charmers charm in the baskets.
Mm.
And so I think, given my size inconsequentiality to this thing, I would call out to the snake, and I would say something in my dream, if I could articulate, in that hyper lucidity that dreams sometimes have.
Yep.
I would call out, "Immaculate, scintillating viper of the desert, tell me the secrets of the earth."
When you call out this request in dreamlike fashion, you are next to this serpent, next to its face. You are gliding along with it. You are a much smaller serpent, maybe not even a serpent, maybe a lizard or something, but you are gliding through the sand next to it. And the serpent, without like breaking its, and it says, "But do you not already know them?"
You are closer than the firstborn, the secondborn, and even the dwarves who dwell deep within. You have a wisdom primordial. Please, let us pause and tell me all you can tell me.
The serpent continues to slither, and it says, "You would not want me to pause, for where I rest, I feed."
Sweet. A very cool dream, Zach. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. You would perhaps say more to the serpent. You would perhaps find a way of stopping it or of doing something else. But in the moments of your consideration, um, you you hear a sound that is certainly not of the desert dunes and serpents. You hear the sound of a cock crowing, and you wake up and find that you are back in Abra Khan, and the sun is rising.
Hmm. I share the dream with Zachariah and Krithiel.
What do you think it means?
I think the Golden King could be the serpent, or the darker power mustering to the east. Zachariah, the Golden King, for all we know, may be deeply embedded with the enemy. I think it's up to us to to plant some seeds of doubt, or at least to create a wedge opening that there's option value for the Golden King. to do something constructive with Gondor. Hey, Zach, do I have a sense that the Viper is the Golden King, or is the Viper Sauron? Or it could be unclear.
There was definitely malice there, but it would be probably your first thought that it is. In the world of dreams and dream logic, it would make sense that the Golden King, who has a serpent as his emblem, would be represented by a viper in the dream space.
Maybe, Zachariah, the condition that you could implant in his mind is that he could do without Gondor, as powerful as he is. But nothing's going to make his power diminish. He'll always have his power. That perhaps, if he entreats with us and accepts the peace and prosperity agreement, he can gain more power. He can gain more wealth and have all the option value for later.
My inclination is that we need him more than he needs us. Yes, he would love to get his hands on elven riches and add to the gold plating on his city. And yes, he is stupid enough to not know about elves. And their workmanship and what the dwarves have made and things like that. And yes, we could trade things like that. We could send our agricultural goods down here. It would be wonderful to have trade routes be more safe. But their city is already plated in gold. Their city is not besieged. They are already doing just fine. They don't need us. The only thing that we can do is to try to give them things that we have, our influence, our access to Middle Earth, the rest of the realms of men, and try to have them be a bastion against Sauron and evil men beyond, if that is something they're even interested in doing. I think that the ideas that the steward and many people have in Gondor, in Minas Tirith, of war. We will war on this side, we'll war that side, we'll fight Sauron here, and then we'll fight for our ancient claims we've never cared about to the south. They're all about this war, but in my mind, a great man once said that in war, whichever side may call itself the victor, there are no winners, but all are losers. So that's what I would say, is that we just need them to be a bulwark against those to the south, and there's nothing more that we can do that they need. They've got what they need. You're familiar with the great man, right?
Hmm.
Neville Chamberlain.
Yeah.
That's sweet that you brought that to bear.
I had to.
What do you think, Crithiel?
I think that my phone started ringing just as you asked me. And now my camera went out, which I didn't turn on, which is bizarre. Sorry. I don't know. There we go. I am wary of your omen. I think that you are perhaps, it would be a mistake to misread what the snake wants. You speak. We have offered it. We have offered him a way to the elves and a way to the dwarves and a way past us to other things. But if you are setting camp for the night and you see a snake approach you from the grass, and it is heading towards you, it is a mistake to assume that what it wants is to get past you to your horse.
There is, it is still like the morning sunrise is still progressing when the sound of footfalls outside your door, your quarters, comes again, and there is the command that the king has summoned you once more. If you, when you move to follow, breaking in behind this group of guards, you're escorted back down to the same place that you were before. This time, though, king upon the throne, and there are what could only be described as like a coven of these visors, these older bird-like women that are clustered behind him, arrayed behind him. Like the entire retinue has been brought out for this next meeting. And as you are brought in, and it is with very little pomp that, or preamble, that the king calls down. He says, "Emissaries of the White City." And you could see that as he stands up, you could see that he is resplendent now. He is wearing, his golden mask, his sash is golden weaved. All the buttons and buckles on his garb are made of gold. But you could see that he is clothed, when not in gold, in white now. And he says, as he stands up, you can see that the white robes kind of spill out around him, and he moves down. He says, I could not sleep last night. Your appearance here, your arrival, your words, it is not a matter of chance that you have come here. I believe that you were called, that you were led, that there is a great purpose to your arrival. He descends down the stairs, and his coven kind of stays up behind him, not unmoving. He walks down to where he is, just a few steps above you, and he says, I am curious. How did the night fare for you as well? Do you have the same sense, the same understanding, the same resolution as I?
if I
You
may.
want to do, you may go ahead, Zachariah.
It seems like that seems like your answer, since you were the one with the portent there.
I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm happy to start.
Yeah, I go for it, because I might throw some crazy shit at us. So
I think you need to show crazy shit. I say, Your Excellency, we too spent the night feeling that there was something sublime about this encounter, something very meaningful and significant. I think that you are correct in your insights and are tapping into something bigger. That's all I'll say, Zachariah.
He says, you know, and he walks past you as he's doing this thing. You can tell now, if not maybe just the spark of your dream, Ulysses, Samarian's dream. But you could tell now that the throne that he sits upon faces the north. And so he comes down. He takes the last few steps to where he's standing beside you, and then he moves past you, his gaze towards the north. And he says, each day of my reign, I have looked towards your city, and I have wondered what it might take to reach out and place my hand upon it, to bring it into my family, to my fold. He says, I knew of only one way. For years, that has been my vision. And he turns back and he looks to you and he says, you have not seen it, but you will. The armies of the South are mighty beasts of war, are thousands of spears, are thousands of arrows. Much has been laid in preparation for this coming day. But then you arrived. And perhaps that has changed. He still seems in thought. Then he moves over and he stands in front of Crithael, like looking at you. He says, and then I spoke to this one. And I was given an insight, an understanding into this world, into your world, your land. And I hear, ever since you left, I've heard the cries of your people, their desperation, their fear, their yearning. I think that Gondor has been too long in isolation, too long alone, too long cornered in the dark, too long being nipped at the heels. He says, I think that I am meant, just as you were meant to come here, I am meant to go there with you as my heralds. I believe, and he's looking at Crithael still, and he says, I believe that perhaps you did not know it, but I believe that your coming here was a quest for a king, and I believe you have found them. Why must we fight Gondor when a better answer, a noble answer, peaceful answer lies before us. You are kingless. You are without ally, and you are a gateway, and we might be your answer. I might be your answer. Gondor gains an army. Gondor gains a king.
So I'm going to step a little closer to him.
I have never been happier in all my role playing to have you at my side in this moment.
I'm going to come closer to him, and I'm going to say, I'm a scholar. I don't know if you are a scholar yourself or you surround yourself with them, but I'm a scholar, and in particular, I hope to one day be a linguist. Which, for those in the stream that don't know, this character was a linguist. So in the previous campaign, which is 50 years later or something, this character is an old man and a linguist. His class is a custom class that Zach came up with himself. It was a little overpowered and very fun to play. So I say, my liege, I hope to become a linguist. I study many languages. I know the Sindarin, I know Quenya, I know the speech of many men. And an interesting term that I believe you used was import. This was a matter of import to you. And it strikes me that there's a similar word, a similar root in the common tongue called portent. And I believe that our coming here was a matter of import, a very important matter. And we thought, when we walked in these halls yesterday, we thought that perhaps that importance was that we could open trade. Perhaps that important matter, that matter of import, was that we might perhaps our leaders would have us assert our dominance over our claims of hundreds of years ago in the land that you call home and our maps drawn centuries ago called Gondor. Of course, that went out the window when we saw your city. We saw a beautiful city. We saw a city with gleaming gold, with towers. We saw amazing armies that have not had need to fight. We saw beautiful high walls of gleaming stone that had never been besieged. And it dawns on me that our coming here as a matter of import was not to open up trade, to assert our dominance, or to even bring gifts and receive gifts. Our coming here was to be a portent of things to come. I know that you know what lies to your east. I know you know the city that lies to your north. But what I'm not sure you know is the history of the alliance of elves and men that fought against Sauron 3,000 years ago. I don't know if you understand the evil that is beyond your borders. I know you have gold. I know you have wealth. I know you have trade. I know you have the most beautiful walls and banners. And you have an army, but I don't know if you understand the portent that lies to your east, the threat that would come to you from the land of Mordor that has come to us in Gondor. I think that we come not as emissaries to be lauded and heralded, but as prophets that can come and show you what path would come to you if you were to ally with such an evil force. I am a scholar. I've spent or misspent my youth poring over books, learning of the first War of the Ring, the first alliance against Sauron. I know the tales. I can tell the tales. I can explain them and write them down for you and your men so that you know not only not to ally yourselves with the evil to your east or to ignore it, but so that you know that whether it benefits you and your trade or gains you more gold or more power or more thrones to sit upon, I want you to know that this evil will never, never do you well. And that the only way forward for your city-state, for your kingdom, for your future empire is to ally with our people. Whether it benefits you or not, whether it grows your status is not important. It is a fight for your very lives, because that evil will storm over these beautiful gleaming walls and will tear down the golden spires, and they won't leave a stone standing. And to think that you could ally with them, to think that you could ignore them, is to ignore the most important portent that has ever come to your city. That's what we bring to you. We bring you news. We can't pretend that we bring you the best agriculture, the best crafting from the elves, although we do bring those things. We can't pretend that we can bring you the best wine from lands beyond, which we can. What we bring you is news that can save your life and the life of your empire. That's it. And I want to try to convey this to him so strongly that I finally sat down and looked at craft, and I picked out the two craft, and one of them is speechcraft that I decided to go for. The other one is the healing one. So
yeah,
one of the options there is make a charisma intimidation check, contested by the target's charisma intimidation check. A target that has advantage. Oh, a target has advantage if it's large or whatever. A frightened target can make an intimidation check against your. Sorry, the frightened target can make an intimidation check against your passive charisma intimidation score at the end of each of its turns. But anyways, the idea is that it is, if it fails, if you win the contest, the target is frightened of you for 1 minute. And I don't want them to be frightened of me. I want them to be frightened of what I'm telling them.
Yeah.
So that's what I would like to do. If anybody has any fancy juju to benefit from that, then by all means, I'd love lore dice, etc. But yeah, that is my speech to the Golden King.
Awesome.
Well, I would just say you most certainly should use a fellowship point to have advantage on this roll.
Do we have a fellowship point? I know that we have
5 at the start. You get 1 for each member of the fellowship, plus 1 for your patron.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you can get plus 2, but I'm presuming when I look at this patron list that Ecthelion is on par with Cyrodiil and Balin, who are plus 1s.
Yeah.
As opposed to Gandalf, Tom Bombadil, and Bilbo, who are plus 2s. So I'm just saying we have a plus 1.
Yeah.
Well, I know that
so
one
we have 5.
The ability to reroll or have advantage. I think it was a reroll on a charisma check that is in council. I believe that's one of the.
Yes.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what I would love to do. Unfortunately, my intimidation is not crazy high, but it is plus 1, so it is worth it. So if I get any extra consideration for the speech, awesome. But it is a person. It's tough nut to crack.
I know. I will give you. I'll give you inspiration for that as is your right. So yeah, go ahead and roll with inspiration there.
Okay. Wow. That's 11. So do we want to? So we can re-roll for a fellowship point.
Yeah, you can re-roll one. Yep. You should.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah, I think we should. There we go.
That's a crit.
That-
20.
That
There's a-
is tapping into fellowship. That is.
So what's your total there, Brian?
21.
21. Okay.
It's only a +1, so yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let me roll this here. So the king isn't going to get advantage, but he does have a higher bonus than you do, of course. On charisma intimidation. So let's see here.
As well he should. I'm a little scholar, and he's a king. Power hungry king at that.
Oof. All right. So your words. You know, you can't see much. He's wearing this mask, but your words give him pause. Certainly. Yeah. As Craig says, you're selling the extended warranty. And as you consider, as you think that he's considering, and he says, "Well then, scholar, you would be interested in learning that emissaries from the sorcerer have arrived here well before you, and that this threat that you speak of building in the east is well known to us, and that it promises many things, and most of the things that it promises are of high worth, merit, benefit, wealth, land, prestige, a place in the coming age. Not unlike what you have offered, especially in the recent day. He says, I will not say that I turned away these emissaries, but I will also say that you have not arrived too late, and that no formal treaty between the Golden Throne and the Darkness has been made. He says, by the way, Brian, you succeeded, if you didn't catch that. But
Yeah, I did the math.
yeah, okay, good. Make sure you tell. He says, we know well enough. We know well enough that the storm is brewing. We know well enough that it is not just our eye that is fixed upon the White City. And it is for this reason, that I say again, would it not be to our mutual benefit for more than a simple alliance to be forged, but a joining, a reunification of the Southlands and the Northlands of Numenor?
Your Excellency, your vision is a most compelling vision. Iluvatar created humans to be the ancestry to inhabit Middle Earth. And you are proposing a unification of all humans under one throne and one banner. And that is a brilliant strategy. Now, I will tell you, as I calculate the possibilities, us bringing you to the White City at the head of your mighty armada is one path, but it's a path that would likely be jarring and unexpected, and not make for the easiest of marriages. Rather, strike with us a peace and prosperity treaty so that we may have exchange. We may have a courtship, so to speak, that allows the people of Gondor to know better who you are, to see your kingly virtues, to see the splendor of your realm, to welcome you then with open arms, proving yourself the magnanimous one. Surely a title for the ages.
I would go in. I would, as a scholar, I would go ahead and again quote a great man, and I would say, "We would fight not for the political future of a distant city, rather for principles whose destruction would ruin the possibility of peace and security for the peoples of the earth." Neville Chamberlain.
Oh, Neville.
Crithiel, were you going to jump in there?
No, you see Crithael has, as they would say, a grim countenance and remains utterly silent. And you can see that she's holding back words, but that she does not speak.
I'm going to carry. Sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah.
Or whoever.
No, that was it.
And Crithiel knows Silmarion well enough that Silmarion's trying to diffuse the craziness of the king's state of Gaul.
Silmarion would know that there is no world in which Crithael would accept one who entertains the forces of darkness in any manner. But she is also.
So I think carrying forward Brian's success from before, the king does have this like anxious intensity about him now. Something that Zachariah said got under the skin, right? And there is an urgency when he speaks now, and there is an emotion that was not quite there in earnest before. And he says, as you're finishing up, Silmarion, he says, "Lady of Gondor, I grow ever tired of you and your people's hesitancy. This is, how long will you wait? How long must the moment be delayed and the fruit ripen on the vine? You press forward so cautiously, always on your back foot. The fruit will rot on the vine ere you make a decision. Ere your king comes, you have your king before you, and still you hesitate. You will face the darkness alone, and still you might hesitate. And it will only be, perhaps in your last breath, on your knees, will you look up and say, 'Where now is our king?' And I will look from afar and say, 'I was there, and you turned me aside.'"
And tell us how you have faced the darkness. Tell us of how you have turned it away then.
Awesome. I am going to give you. That is a front facing statement. I'm going to let you make a roll here. Would you like to make an intimidation roll, Crithael? Would that be helpful?
I don't know.
Well, would I like to make one, and would it be helpful? Are two very different questions.
No. You're gonna.
Mechanically speaking.
So what I'm trying to imply is you're going to make a roll. I want to give you something that you have a, you know, if at all possible, I'd love to give you a skill that you have a chance at succeeding in. So, whatever that
Yes.
you talk to me if there's one that you feel like might be better in this moment. So,
How about wisdom, insight? He can
that's
evaluate the emotions
I
of
think,
and
I think-
revealing unspoken possibilities.
I think conversationally, I think insight would be because she's been waiting. Again, she's been biting her tongue, not like knowing that what she has to say is essentially hostile.
Yeah.
But she has found, or she hopes she has found the moment, because he claims that he will protect us from the darkness. And I think insight would, in this case, indicate more, is this the right place to insert her barb, if you will?
So, before you roll this, quick note.
Yep.
It makes sense to me. I'm happy with insight. If you roll an insight check, you cannot use a fellowship point to re-roll it.
Yes.
If you roll an intimidation check or some sort of charisma check, you could. So
that's fine.
Okay.
Um,
I love that Crithale held her tongue till here. So I will let you have advantage on this because I feel like this is the right moment for her to speak. So.
All right, let's do this.
Ooh, look
Okay.
at that.
Nice. Okay.
24.
24. This is where I will put some additional pressure on Ulysses. So, here's what before we talk
Where
about
it
your
belongs.
success. Yes. Yeah. So let me be clear about what happened last week. So, in the council ebb and flow, like there's different DCs for different things and yada 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 yada, right? The DC for this king, the Golden King, is 20. You cannot fail a roll, and you must succeed 3 times in a row in order to, have a success here. Last week, you guys did very good up until the end because all of you must roll, and then unfortunately, Crithale couldn't quite get you over the finish line, even though like you guys were doing fantastic. The situation is it's incredibly difficult.
In Crithale's defense, it's very hard to roll a 20 with a modifier of -1.
Yes, exactly. You'd have to crit, right? So it's yeah. But the great thing about today is that Brian did a craft check, which works in its stead, and also he got above a 20, so he kind of succeeded on both fronts, which was fantastic. And then Crithale has made her check and did it in a way that I think was excellent. So as you say this, the king kind of takes a step back away from you, like caught off guard for a moment, and then steps forward, like attempting to, by his physicality, communicate, dominance in this moment. And
Crithale doesn't even flinch, and
Yes.
this literal, she has done this literal thing before with the thug we encountered in the previous city,
Right.
where she walked right up to him and with his blade to her throat. She has actually done this before. So
Yeah.
she does not there's not even a eyelash does not move.
Absolutely. And I would say that, like, all, as a quick note about the area around you, the atmosphere, like all of the guards kind of like are at full attention, like at the ready, like ready to pounce. Like you can just the room has gained this electricity element to it, as like every person who serves this king, it does not want to be the person who pisses him off at the moment, right? Um, and as he steps back forward to you, he says, um, in a low voice, he says, and like through clenched teeth almost, he says, and I would ask the same of you and your steward. He says, Gondor is not upon the lofty perch that it once was. We all crawl through the sand and mud. We all struggle to survive. It is from this desperation that I reach out a hand to you, that we might pull each other from this mud, that we might be able once again to get our bearings, to look towards the heavens, to see the sun. Alone, there is only darkness here. He
Nothing,
good, yeah.
nothing would drive back the darkness of the sorcerer than to see the human kingdoms reach alliances and agreements. We are of noble stock. Our ancestors assaulted the very heavens. Our blood, king or no king, runs pure, runs true. Look at Crithial. Would you not want to have 1,000 Crithials in your army alongside your great soldiers? We are not only a desired treasure for the powers that be in this world, we are desired ally, Golden King. We have a strength and a store. And you keep saying we lack a king. But I'll say this. I may not know all the lore that Zachariah knows, but I do know that there is caprice, chance, and context to many things political in this world. And if we chose to, in Gondor, we could have named the steward king. We could have started a new line. We as a people realized that our nation state stood on its own strength, its own resolve, its own resilience. And as long as there are people like me, like Crithial, and like Zachariah, we will have the strength, the determination, the wisdom, and the intellect to counter the sorcerer.
Give me a.
We
Yep. So keep going. Nope.
no. We come here because of portents. We come here in your words because we were called. There is great purpose to us being here because we are the White City, reaching a hand across great distance in geography and time and understanding to greet you and become friends with you.
Give me a. I would like, to me, your communication here. They're like, I don't know what your stats are, so I may be giving you a benefit here, but um, but I would like either a persuasion check, or really what I get a sense from this moment is that this is more of a performance. So I will reduce the difficulty ever so slightly if you make a performance check instead of persuasion.
Could I add something?
Yeah.
So after Silmarion speaks, Crithale is somewhat emboldened. She will say, "You speak of a hand reaching from the darkness. A hand that reaches out from the darkness and finds purchase of another hand. It can pull another would-be soldier into the darkness with it, and perhaps leave that person there, perhaps vanquish them. But the only way to emerge from the darkness is to clasp the other hand and to accept it and to be brought out of the darkness."
Mm.
So I will. I'm glad you felt emboldened by my speech.
Is it possible to give a lore point? Or no? Oh, like it's the bardic inspiration essentially. Is that
Sure.
cheating
Nope.
the rules?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Just checking. I didn't want to. I don't know how different it is.
You've been quoting. You've been speaking rhymes of lore this whole time from Mr. Neville. So I think you've been threading it through, so you can deploy that now if you want to.
I mean, I just think that we should seek by all means in our power to avoid war. Another Neville Chamberlain. I've got him brought up on my monitor here. So, the people in the streamer have no idea what's going on.
Oh, no, listen, Craig is Australian. He's a Commonwealth guy. He knows who Neville Chamberlain is. He probably the generation above him, if not the one above that, has plenty of stories to tell. All right, so I'm going to take you up on performance because I do think, going back to last night, our yesterday council with him, and his reaction to what Silmarion said earlier is, I don't think persuasion's the way. I think this is about performance. This is about a demonstration. This is a reminder.
Yep.
He's got amazing specimens of Gondorian excellence in front of him. I mean, so I will do performance. Hey, listen, I included you in that.
I know.
And how did you? And how about the fact our ancestors assaulted the very heavens, which might not have been Numenor's greatest moment.
Well, you will get.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know elves exist. So
you'll get an extra D6 from Brian for his rhymes of lore.
Okay, so I am going to roll a performance check.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is not as strong as my persuasion check, but I love the direction you went in, and I like challenge. So I am going to roll this, and because it's a charisma check, I can re-roll it by spending a fellowship point. Correct?
That's right.
All right. So, all right, hold on. Drum roll, please. Boom. 17. Okay, and I'm going to do the 1d6, Bardic Inspiration. That's a 20.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's enough, so I am going to spend a fellowship point and re-roll. And I'll stick with the 17.
So 20 total. Okay.
20 total.
The king after a moment he says, one thing we have not discussed. Children of the North. He says, from here, where will you go? To Umbar?
Great King, what makes you, where do you think we should go?
He says, we have talked long of darkness, and I've told you of its emissaries, the Sorcerer's Hand. It reaches not just for us, but beyond us to others. I fear that wherever you go in these lands, you will fear and you will feel this darkness, that hand, the gaze of the sorcerer. He says, if what I understand to be true about your endeavor is thus, you will go to Umbar and treat with them as you have treated with me, and attempt to pull them to your side, to sway.
To our side.
Hmm.
Excellency.
He says, you will have far more hope, a small hope nonetheless, but a far more hope of swaying Umbar and of calling them to their heritage than you would finding a single ally to the far east or further south. There lies only mystery, darkness, and danger.
Great King. As I've introduced myself, I am a scholar. I'm interested in greater knowledge, and a personal project of mine that I know my colleague is certainly interested in. I'm interested in finding out more lore, more interesting things going on. And these ruins to our southwest, what can you tell us of them? Certainly, since they're only a couple days' journey, you and your illustrious kingdom have certainly subdued them, mapped them, certainly things like that. But I thought I might inquire as to what you have learned and whether you think it would be worthwhile for us to just get a better handle on our heritage by traversing that direction.
He says, he kind of barks a laugh. He says, nay, nay, we have not subdued the ruins. He says, you have not seen it, so I will not call you a fool. But only a fool would hope to subdue that place. It It was dark before the sorcerer turned its gaze to these lands. It has been dark for generations. It is the pit of darkness. The creatures that dwell within there relish in blotting out the sun. And he kind of motions to the walls and the ceiling of his palace. He says, "In the Golden City, the sun's gaze, the sun's radiance is everything. It is by happenstance only, by a fool's fate, that the place of darkness, the pit of black, lies just a few days south. Do not mistake its proximity for familiarity."
I just kind of look up and I say, so your army would have in a few years' time marched on the White City, but you've not bothered to clear the ruined husk of a former city.
We have a
Don't judge, but there's just a little bit of a snark in there.
yeah.
Just a
He
tiny
says
bit.
we have a saying in Harad. Says, "If you know the viper is in its hole, why would you stick your hand inside?"
Okay, Viper.
Great,
Got it.
great king, Golden King. We appreciate your insight, your advice, your admonition, your warning. The words well spoken and well heard. For us to embark for Umbar, we would respectfully request of your excellency that you provide us with a document of willingness to enter a peace and prosperity agreement among our three kingdoms.
You see, he makes a motion, and a scroll is brought out by someone. One of the women advisors from above descends with a scroll in hand, and he says, "There will be another day where we will continue our conversation of kings." He takes the scroll, and he hands it to you, and he says, "You'll forgive me for my audacity, but perhaps I fear the darkness and feel its hot breath upon my neck more so than you, and I am desperate." And he hands you the scroll, and as you take it, you look. It's already written, like you see the seal of the king already upon it, right? And he says, "This is not a promise of unity. This is not an agreement to a treaty. This is not a promise to provide aid. However," he said, "such things we would only do in accord with our own existing alliance with the Corsairs of Umbar. What you have in your hand is a recognition that you have passed through these lands, that we have allowed you to do so. It will have some weight in Umbar. It will be recognized, not perhaps as you being a friend of the king, but of the king having shown you mercy it is an indication that they might do the same. Deal with Umbar. Consider my words, consider my offer while you are there. And should you find them willing to listen, should you find that you can bend their ear, should you find them ready to sign a more formal agreement, send for me, and I will come to your White City, and I will deal with your steward there.
Thank you.
You don't have an alliance, but you probably have the next best thing, which with that, you all now have the closest thing probably you were ever gonna, well, not that you were ever going to get. There were certainly ways of getting more, but you have done enough to get the patron of the Golden King.
That's awesome.
So that's going to give you, there's some notes there now under the Golden King, but favored callings are captains and treasure hunters. Fellowship points, you get an extra fellowship point now. And you have an additional advantage called Awe of the Gleaming Throne. When you're in a hex that contains a city, you can spend a fellowship point to force a creature you can see to re-roll a d20 test.
Ooh.
And you see how I'm sliding in new D&D lingo with d20 tests already? So, yeah. I'm ahead of the times.
Oh.
No.
So, Paul, don't make me feel like a Gragonard. What is the D20, the new lingo for?
Oh, it's just they like the idea in the new playtest documents of calling a lot of things D20 tests instead of like you know, a dexterity check or whatever. They just call them a lot of things D20 tests.
Wait, are we still doing that?
I don't know.
They keep changing.
I don't
I'm wondering,
know.
like,
Yeah.
how do you fire your people and still have the ability to roll out a new product? That's interesting.
Moving on.
Well,
I'm fine keeping it at 5e forever.
Yeah. So you have that ability, which all of your abilities so far have been about modifying your stuff, but with the Awe of the Golden Throne, you were able to pull it out with a second try, and you are able now to influence other creatures' rolls with your fellowship points, which is, I think, kind of cool. Yeah. So, I honestly was not. I was all set. I'm not gonna lie. I was all set to turn to you, Krithael, if somebody had failed, and say, Krithael, you're going to get attacked. Describe for me the series of rolls, checks, and encounters that we're going to have to get you out of the Golden City of Abrakan. Because you had been eyeing escape vectors from minute one. Yeah, like, genuinely, I needed a 20 or better on every single check, and you guys did it without a failure. So, good job. That was.
Yeah.
You did a great job. He was a surprising person.
Well, I'll say, like, and not to close us out of the game right away, but one of the things I'll say is, like, to me, one of the cool things about Middle Earth that I really like is that we know something about these lands. Even though we haven't met these characters, we know something about these lands, and we know about their dispositions. And because we have ages and genealogies of history of all these lands, here's the reality of the Golden King. The reality of the Golden King is that he does not have enough Numenorian bloodline to ever, in a reasoned society, have a claim for the throne of Gondor. He will always be relegated to the desert sands. Always, right? And even then, there is always the possibility that Gondor will march south and reclaim lands long forgotten. And so, in my mind, when you're faced with that, and he has to make a bid. he has to make a bid to, you know, what he can't do by birthright, do by, you know, by show of force or show of will, or force of will. Um, and I think that to me, like as I was prepping this section of the campaign, I'm like, I think he's such a compelling character in that because he has nothing to lose but potentially everything to gain. And why not go all in to some extent and try?
Yeah,
I love it.
like I really was about to walk away from there. It was like as I was trying to think about it earlier today, I'm just like, there's no we can't convince them that they need us to trade. We can't convince them that we own their territory. That's not happening. We can't convince them that that they need our military might. They have all of those. They're untested. They couldn't beat us in a 100 men to 100 men fight, but who cares? Like, I was just like, the only thing we've got is to try and Hail Mary and say, Sauron's bad. You shouldn't trust Sauron. And the fact that worked, and I was pretty proud of the speech there. But the fact that worked was surprising, honestly.
Yeah, you guys all did great. I loved it. I loved like I was really hoping for some cool moments and you guys did a great job there. So I felt like you guys had actually earned, like legitimately earned the success. So that's always a cool feeling.
Yeah, obviously you can't win every. It's not a fun game if we go through and we win every single diplomacy thing, and yeah, it's like, oh cool, we've made friends everywhere, aren't we awesome? You know, it starts getting autopilot. But this one was kind of hard fought. I was surprised that it actually worked. I thought this was going to be the one where you kill the character to let people know that you're serious, sort of thing.
Well, here's what you guys are faced with. So this is where we'll kind of start to, like, we knew this wasn't going to be as long of a session this time around, but what I'll say for what you guys are faced with is, you know, I think Ulysses is very gung ho for you to go to the ruins, and that's definitely an option. I think hopefully I made it abundantly clear that at least in the mind of the King of Aberconn, you're not going to find another patron down there. You're gonna find.
Hey, wait, but there's a 3 on the map. I mean, 3 sounds like a really big number.
There is a really big number down there. So the numbers on the map. Let's talk about the numbers. The 3.
Oh, I know what they are.
Yes. For those at home,
it means if you're there, you're going to get 3 incidents.
3 incidents per hex. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it has been. I don't see, even if the Criteo was having a hard time being convinced that we should go fuck around with ruins anyway. But, like, given what was just said, and given that we actually got what we wanted here, and we have an up to go to Umbar, I'm like, there is, like, no reason whatsoever for us to divert way the hell out of the way to just mess around.
Well, before you... And I love that.
I'd like to point out that there's one potential patron down there. Just throwing that out there. He sits up on a dark throne. He's got a big eye. Just to throw, there's one guy we could probably get a hold of. He's probably got some phone number down there.
There's probably.
But I don't feel like it might not be our best bet.
Right. Yeah. If you think it's hard to sway the Golden King, no. So we'll leave that decision. But I'll say that, like, you got a decision between going down there, and I will say, like, high risk, high reward. You're not going to get a patron down there. I'll just go ahead and be blunt. But, if that's like, to me, that's like saying, if you choose to go down there, it's kind of like saying, I want to go clear all of the areas in the video game before I fight the final boss, right? And
don't say that. Come on, man. You're talking to gamers.
That's right. Right. But what I'm trying to tell you also is that is DLC content for after you fight the final boss. So you get some cool rewards, but you may also end your campaign. Go ahead. the other choice, right? So to paint a picture here, Abercon is kind of like a side quest that you guys did very good at, but was very challenging. But I'm not gonna lie in saying that like Abercon, like what you got from them was, hey, we let these guys through. You got a bigger challenge going to Umbar, which is to get an actual signed treaty.
Yes.
And that I think as difficult as the ruins are going to be, could be from a challenge perspective, and as difficult as Abercon is, to Brian's point, like very much this is a scaling situation, and very much you're walking to Umbar, you're moving to Umbar, and the council challenge there will be even more difficult. That said, you guys leveled up, so good job.
That makes us what level now?
5?
Fifth.
Fifth. That sounds
Five.
right. Yeah.
Fifth level.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Yes.
so if we look at the map, this pink line going from Abercon to Umbar, I drew it in that it is like kind of the minimal red territory or orange territory,
Sure.
right? It's a lot of yellow, which is the safest land we can have down here. We have to cross the road out just west of Abercon here. Maybe because we just had audience with the Golden King and we have a sealed document from him, where you can get through some things we might otherwise get through. But then we're going to be from here to crossing the river here to getting here. We're in yellow, and then we only have this one hex to go before we're into Umbar.
Yeah.
And this is not a 2 right here. The 2s are here. And
They're in the
here.
black bordered areas. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not here. So, and also, I've always felt it was to our advantage to arrive in Umbar, not from the coast road or not by sea, but from the east.
Well, it is, and I think we've pretty much sealed the question of whether we're going to Salantir and that we're not, because certainly if we read into what the Golden King said, he implied that any, I guess, treaty would be with Umbar. He did not so much as mention the idea of Salantir being in any way a force or involvement. So I think we should read that as a sign that we have nothing to find there. I mean, there's something to find everywhere, but nothing.
Well, right. And if you remember, going back to Pelargir, Lord Minerdrill II, he told us that he saw Salantir as the biggest rival to Umbar. Like the head of Salantir is this guy, Lord Dusad, who's of Numenorian descent and is a rival.
Yeah. Salantir is out of your way at this point, which it doesn't mean that you can't go there, but it is definitely out of your way. B, you got a lot of patrons. You forged a lot of alliances already. I mean, like you picked up 3 patrons on the road so far. So like that's a fantastic number.
I don't have. By the way, when you say that, you're talking about Ecthelion being our first patron.
No.
You're talking about. Are you talking about Lord Minerdrill?
Yep.
Pelargir,
What was his patron? What did he give us?
Which one?
I don't have those notes. Lord Minerdrill.
Yeah. So I'm happy to give you those, and I will right now. I will say that if any of you want to look at them, you can also open your character journal to that character portrait and scroll down. And I'm seeing that some of them aren't visible, but I'm making all of the patron notes visible to you guys.
Yeah, I saw Sire Grath.
Yeah.
I got that.
So there's Lord Minardrills, which is the Seaman's Gaze. When you're in a hex that contains a river or the sea, you can spend a fellowship point to roll a d20 after each roll in the journey events table and choose whether the lore master uses their roll or yours. So the idea, what your path that you drew, that pink line to Umbar, honestly, if that part of that might have also been, and you could get one more hex out of it if you wanted to, that journeying along that river as much as you can gives you access to Menardril's options.
Yep. Yes. That's the seaman's gaze, and being from Pelphalis, I'm very appreciative of that. So we get one from Menadril. Second. So we did not get a fellowship point from Siregrath.
Mm-hmm. You did. No, you didn't get you didn't get a fellowship point, but you did get a
tradesman boon.
The tradesman's boon. Yeah.
Yep.
Really.
But
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So I'm just saying. So we started. We have 4 fellowship points for 4 members of the party. We have the one from Ecthelion. We have one from Menadril, and we now have one from the Golden King. So we have 7 fellowship points. We have spent 3.
Yep.
When do they reset?
Fellowship points reset during the fellowship phase.
Okay, so we still have 4.
Yeah.
And as we learned, they're an important resource.
Yep. Exactly.
I have one more proposal. I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but we could go back to Abercon, and then we just ask them for elephants, and we invade Umbar. And then we have the ace up our sleeve, in that Aragorn comes in, or whatever his name now is. He comes in from the sea, and he also attacks Umbar. And then we say, "Hey, Abercon, you get Umbar, and you got to take on Sauron with us." And so I'm just saying, elephants. I mean,
you guys
could just win. I mean, that could be fun.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys ever won D&D, but this is how you do it.
Listen, nothing is off the table, so I'm sure the Golden King would love you to come back with another proposal right away.
I mean, it's worth a try.
Listen, it's up to you guys. Like we haven't broken canon yet, but I am not above it. So we can definitely give it a try.
Clearly, as you can see, that the red is Andrew.
Yes. You take it. Yes, take the mummox through the ruins.
By the way, when you were speaking, when Zachariah asked the Golden King about those ruins, and you were role playing the king, I was like, is he really role playing the king, or is he role playing himself?
Yeah. Yeah. So if I can tease you and also terrify you, when I was building out this map, I was also looking through the book, right, and looking at all the monsters that they put in the book, and like thinking about like, oh, is there places to populate a lot of these monsters on this map? Like, how do I add variety? Because adding variety to monsters in Middle Earth, it can be something of a challenge. And one of the interesting monsters, and I'm not promising that you would actually encounter this, so this is just, this is a
it's just random.
It's just random. But one of the monsters that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, there's some really good lore behind it, is werewolves in Middle Earth. And I'm like, well.
Oh, yeah. That goes back.
That goes way back, yeah.
But that's when Morgoth, when the elves first awoke and he seduced some of them into the woods, they became werewolves.
Yep. So I say that to say that one of the things that is in that forest that your characters know nothing about, but you now do, is that there is a potential for a werewolf encounter, which is a crazy difficult encounter.
Especially since we don't have silver weapons.
Yeah. From non-magic, they're
it's convenient that we're not going there, and also that we should probably wait for the final member of our fellowship to make that decision fully. Yeah, but you need to give him the full experience of what the Golden King told us.
Yeah.
Hold on. I wrote it down with excitement. You made my heart flutter when you said the words mystery, darkness, and danger.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
sounds like my kind of date.
Yeah, exactly. No. Listen, it can't just be darkness and danger. Otherwise, you're a fool. But maybe if I throw the word mystery in there, um, it's a different sort of fool who would go down there now. Um, but yeah, no, it. Listen, um, if you win D&D, if you go down into the lair, and you win D&D, you're gonna win D&D. Well, hey, I think this is a good spot to wrap it up. We played for an hour and 45 minutes. That's fantastic, actually. Good round. We're gonna take a break through the holiday, because holy crap, it's about that time. But we're gonna come back in January, and we're gonna find out whether we take a detour to the ruins, we go straight to Umbar, or we recruit the Golden King and his Haradrim horde to, you know, stampede alongside us towards the city of the Corsairs.
There's another option.
Yes.
Through
We
the ruins.
make
Boom.
this
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings Inglorious Bastards edition, where we just turn around and we go just assassinate Sauron.
Yeah, exactly. There's also a thing where, like, I genuinely thought I didn't really think Crethael would go for it, but I genuinely thought Zachariah might negotiate to like negotiate the ascendancy of the Golden King if he could ascend alongside him in some position. Like,
I am not. No, Zachariah is not that ambitious. No, That's just not my character. Now, I was considering negotiating for him to become the steward,
yeah,
but not the king.
Yeah.
So I did have ideas of could he be the steward? But in that case, he would have to call everything Gondor for the Gondorians to actually go for it. Then Abrakan would have to be South Gondor. And I don't think he would have been fine with that. So I didn't propose, but I did consider, would he be an okay steward? And the answer is probably no.
Oh, also, there's this canon. There's the canon of the rule book, and then there's the canon of the fact that Zachariah has a future existence already in Autumno Awakened.
Yes.
It is canon just as much as the others. I mean, you could talk to Chris.
So he clearly did not go to the caves.
That's right. Yeah. Zachariah at least does not visit the ruins. Yeah.
I was going to be like, there's a girl who would be very upset if you became the steward.
Yeah. Well, hey.
And for the record, Crethael's exit plan may or may not have included taking the Golden King hostage.
Yes. That sounds about right. I'm not surprised. Well, hey, I think this is a good time to wrap it up. Thanks a lot, fellas, for playing. Thanks a lot, chat, for hanging out. Craig, Mike, and everybody else. Appreciate you. Yeah, and I may need to like recruit a dwarf. Yeah, or something, Craig. We might have to find a guest NPC slot for you. That would be fun. All right, we're gonna get out of here. Thanks a lot. Have a happy holidays. We'll see you later.